Hello viewer, the Nameless Scholar here, and today I decided to do something different and branch out. I'm gonna do a Star Wars The Old Republic Companions tier list. Like, the only video like this I've seen is a top 10 best SWTOR Companions video, which is from like 5 to 7 years ago, I don't remember precisely. So I decided to make this video, which I've been thinking of doing for months. If you're new to the channel, I am a lore YouTuber that covers sci-fi. Currently I'm covering Warhammer 40k's fanfiction by the name of the Dornian Heresy. After I am finished with that, which like only 2 videos are left at this point, then I will, like, not 2, but like a few more, maybe 3 or 4. After those are done, expect 1 or 2 Star Wars lore videos, and then expect 1 or 2 normal 40k videos. And then I'll cover another 40k fanfiction, like I'm presenting a lore video. So yes, for now, enjoy this. With that out of the way, let's begin. Firstly, I am not gonna add any companions you get after Eternal Throne, so no Darth Hexid, no Tau Dare, no Arn Pellaroon, no Major Anri, no Jakaro, and no Colonel Gallo. With that, let me introduce you to the tiers. Legendary are companions that are the best of the best. You always want them by your side. Squad goals are great companions, but they're not the best. They're close, but not quite. Good companions are companions that are fun to have around, but they could have been much better than what they are now. Perfectly acceptable companions are not bad, they're not good, they're just mediocre. Not worth killing are companions that you dislike, but you wouldn't kill them. Not even in character or out of character. Meatbag, on the other hand, are companions that you would kill, sometimes even out of character. And finally, a blind, deaf, comatose, lobotomy patient that feel my hatred are companions that you despise. With the tier list out of the way, you can finally start watching my garbage video. Starting from the worst companion in all of SWTOR is, of course, Skadge. Now, the thing is that Skadge is not badly written as a character. He's a very accurate depiction of a psychopath. The problem is that he's just a bad companion. Like, he's horrible as a companion. The way that the game forces him onto you, and given how generally unlikable he is, it just turns off any chance of him redeeming himself. Like, if Skadge was a standalone character, he'd be a character I'd love to hate. Hell, I'd much rather have him on the Rishi mission instead of Laura Bailey trying to convince us that she's not Kira putting on a southerner accent. Again, if Skadge was a standalone character, he'd be a good character. It's just that he's not a good companion, and we all hate him. So that's why he's the worst companion in all of SWTOR. And coming just after Skadge, the final person on a blind, deaf, comatose lobotomy patient could feel my hatred is Khalio Janis. Now, again, Khalio is not badly written as a character, and she's not even a bad companion. It's just that she's a bad companion for the Imperial agent. She actively sabotages Cypher 9. Her side quests are very annoying. And I think she'd be much more fit for the bounty hunter. Like, replace Skadge with Cleo and I would have loved her. Again, I just don't think that Cleo is fit for the Imperial agents. And that just sours the experience for me. Again, unlike Skadge, Cleo does have redeeming qualities. So yes, that is why Cleo is here, and Skadge and Cleo are the two characters on a blind, deaf, comatose lobotomy patient could feel my hatred. And the only character that is on the meatbag tier is Tanovic. He's easily the worst trooper companion, and like I don't even think he's fit for the dark side trooper players. With dark side trooper, what you do is basically commit war crimes. You're not necessarily corrupt and you don't take a lot of bribes. You commit war crimes as a dark trooper more than you commit acts of corruption. I mean, war crimes technically are corruptions, I guess, but again, Vic just does not fit to Dark Trooper. He's literal dead weight. And when I was playing my Light Trooper, I just couldn't help myself. I held myself so hard not to just kill him then and there. For how much of a deadweight he is, Vic is on the meatbag tier. And thankfully the only one on the meatbag tier. Continuing on with the only one on the tier trend, the only one that is on the not worth killing tier is Akavi Spar. Like, I do not understand the purpose of Akavi. Like, even as a dark smuggler, her disdain for the Republic feels like she's actively sabotaging you. And I mean, I get that she only follows you due to respecting you, but I don't like Akavi. She's not a bad character, I just don't like her. Again, I just feel like she's sabotaging the smuggler. Even the dark smuggler. Now we move on to the perfectly acceptable tier. This is the tier where, well, characters who are mediocre are, again. So with that out of the way, let me just put 2VR8 and C2N2 here. Do I honestly need to explain myself? Like, I don't. Yep, they're just there. No brainer. Now the next companion on this tier is gonna be a bit, it's gonna cause a bit of an uproar. The next character is T701. Honestly, I think T7 is all overrated. Like, its plot arc is mediocre. Its character is genuinely mediocre. T701 is basically everything, like, wrong with SWTOR companions. No, that's not Skadge. Skadge is just a bad companion. T7 isn't a bad companion, but he's just everything wrong with the SWTOR companions. SWTOR companions are just varying degrees of sycophants. And T7 is the proof of this. Yes, after 150 years, it developed its own personality due to not having a memory wipe, but again, like, M14X exists. He did the sycophant thing much better, to be honest. That is why T7 is on perfectly acceptable. M14X is just better in every way, honestly. After T701 is, I think his name is pronounced Akal Ushar. He's the second Dashad companion you get. The thing is, his backstory is interesting, but Kemwal exists, and he's just better in every way. Just stick to Kemwal. After him comes Zalek. Now, Zalek is a companion that I like, but due to how late the Sith Inquisitor gets him and how there is no time for character development, proper character development, really crippled Zalek character-wise. Not just that, we're not getting any content with him anytime soon with his voice actor dying of cancer, rest in peace. So Zalek is just unlucky. Poor Zalek. After Zalek comes Scorpio. Now, Scorpio is not mediocre. She is unique, but she's just way too untrustworthy for me to like. And I'm not even like a very anti-AI person. Again, she's just way too untrustworthy for me to like. So that is why Scorpio is on the perfectly acceptable list. However, they have been fleshing Scorpio out with Fallen Empire and Eternal Throne. It's just that I'm not a big fan of Scorpio. I think there are much better companions. Sorry. And the final person on the perfectly acceptable tier is Zenith, or Zenith, however you pronounce his name. Zenith, I really tried to like. I really did. I just couldn't. The thing is, he's just static. He doesn't get like any development. He doesn't heal to some extent, and what I mean by that is he's clearly mentally ill. He's suffering from an unhealthy amount of paranoia. He does not heal. He stays the same. The only advancement he does get is, well, he becomes the governor of Balmora. Well, not the governor, but he gets a very important position on Balmora. That's it. And honestly, giving a mentally ill person a position of power is a horrible idea. Now we're getting to the fun part. Good companions. The lowest person on the good companions tier is Lieutenant Pierce. Now, Pierce is Imperial Tano Vic, but whereas Vic is a sleazebag, Pierce is the meaner older brother that gives tough love to you. Which is why I like Pierce. He's, again, the meaner older brother that shows you tough love. And I think it's very fitting for the Sith Warrior companion roster, given his lust for action and disdain for authority, despite being being from the Imperial military. It balances out with Malavai Quinn. So that is why Pierce is on good companions instead of not worth killing or meatbag. After Pierce comes his counterpart, Sergeant Fidelton Rusk. Now I can see why people think Rusk is boring, because I do admit he does border on mediocrity. Because his entire character arc is, you know, the first squad that I ran with, I mentioned to you, they turn out to be war criminals, and I'm sad. But the concept of Rusk and his character in general, I like them. Contradictorily, is if it's that even, if I can't even speak English, wow. So forgive me, English isn't my native tongue, but never mind. Back to the topic at hand. Rusk was born to a pacifist Chagarian colony. So, it's very funny that he enlisted in the Republic military as soon as he could. With that, I also like the concept of him basically being a pariah in the Republic military. His presence is basically an ill omen. Whatever mission he's assigned, it succeeds, but he just comes back with 100% casualty rate. Even though he has gotten a lot of medals, it's because of this he just could not go past Sergeant. I really like that concept, especially for a soldier in the Republic, because Rusk is more fitting to an Imperial soldier than a Republic one. Like, his need to respect the chain of command and his desire to gain victory at all costs make him sound more like an Imperial trooper than a Republic one. That is why Rusk is saved from the perfectly acceptable tier and goes to a good companion tier. Sergeant Rusk comes Langus Gustuno. Now I like Gus because he's actually funny. He has made me chuckle a few times during the Smuggler campaign, though it's been a while since I played it, so I'm not gonna lie about it, and I won't be giving any examples, but what makes me like Gus even more is the stuff that he has received with Fallen Empire. In the Smuggler campaign, he used to use a pistol and was a healer, originally a healer, before you could put any role on your companions, that is. However, when Fallen Empire came around and he was recruitable by all of the classes, Gus actually started using a lightsaber and using the Force, and actually became a Jedi, even though his backstory is basically he got expelled from the Jedi Academy for cheating, which I say that's a pretty neat concept for a Smuggler companion. For the neat concept and making me chuckle a few times, Gus goes on good companion tier. After Gus comes Sergeant Yoon, the final companion the trooper gets in the original campaign. Although unlike Gus, Yoon did not get a lot of developments like he did. However, I still like Yoon for basically being a savant in engineering, plus I just like his mysterious attitude and mannerisms, as well as his spiritual nature. It really sets him apart compared to Vic, especially. Like, because Vic exists, Yoon is on good companion tier. Like, there is not much to say about Yoon, but I like his mannerisms, and that's good enough. But although he could have been much better, definitely. Just like all the companions on this tier. Next up on the tier list is Mako. Now, honestly, I really do not like Mako's archetype. Her backstory is great. Her missions are great. Don't get me wrong. And I like her as a character overall, it's just that I don't like her archetype. She's basically the chaotic good rogue archetype. And I don't like that. It can be done right, but it's the most generic way you could ever do it. I'm talking more about her characterization and mannerisms more than her backstory, which is again pretty good. And the side quests, I had a lot of fun doing them when I was first playing the Bounty Hunter campaign. But yes, I definitely think that Mako could have been done much better. That is why Mako is on good companions here instead of squad goals. Otherwise, she'd be much higher. Next up on the tier list is Dr. Akard Loken. Now, the reason why he's on good companion here is they could have done much better with him. He has a lot of untapped potential, but BioWare, being the neglectful idiots that they are, he's in the current state that he is in now. Firstly, I hate the recruitment mission for him. I loathe it. It is too tedious for me. And I would have loved him to see him turn into a rat ghoul time to time. The same way how Theron Cedrax has Holiday to stun enemies. Would have been great to see the good doctor briefly turn into a rat ghoul and maul on enemies. That would have been cool, but BioWare didn't do that. Aside from that, I like his character, I like his mannerisms, I like his backstory. He's a cool guy. He is definitely a veteran. And I like his interactions with Vector. They have great chemistry together. So that is the reason why the good doctor is definitely a fine addition to Cypher 9's crew. And for that, Akard Loken gets good companion here. Coming up next is Brunemark. Now, I've noticed something with Brunemark. He is basically the type of companion that people either like or fucking despise. And as you can see, I'm with the former camp. Now, for people who don't like Brunemark, hear me out. The reason why I like Brunemark is basically, you know how Brunemark is about protecting the weak, protecting the quote-unquote clan, protecting friends, punishing betrayers. But he sounds like knowing this, he sounds like a noble paladin, right? If we use fantasy terms. But here's the twist. He's a homicidal maniac. And his characterization is basically that him being the embodiment of violence isn't the solution. It is a question. And the answer is yes. Brunemark is basically a lawful evil paladin that basically has a strong tendency towards violence and is obviously mentally ill. At least that's how I look at Brunemark and why I think Brunemark is a good companion. Like, honestly, I don't think he deserves the hate he gets. That is why Brunemark is on good companion tier. Let's just quickly get this over with. It's the HK units. I really don't have a lot to say. I like HK 55 more. Just the concept of an hunter killer assassin droid becoming a bodyguard droid is just amusing. And no, I did not play the bonus chapter, unfortunately, because I am poor. I only subscribed to this game twice in my entire life. So not a lot to say on the HK companions, as other companions are much worth talking than they are. No offense. For example, one such companion is Nadia Grell. The final companion you get with the Jedi Consular campaign. Nadia is basically a less interesting Ashara. There's this theme with the Jedi Consular companions that basically goes like this. You have these characters, but they have so much untapped potential that they're not on squad goals. If BioWare just tapped into their full potential, they'd be on, most of them would be on squad goals, and even on legendary tier with 1 or 2 occasions. But since BioWare really likes to neglect this game, Nadia stays as a younger and more uninteresting Ashara. Now I like her, but again, she's not Ashara. Ashara exists and she's just leagues better than Nadia. Sorry. That is why Nadia gets good companion tier. She is good, but she could have been much, much better, honestly. Up next is from Knights of the Fallen Empire. It's Kof Vortana. I like Kof. I don't see why people dislike him. In fact, Kof has a lot of potential, but after Fallen Empire, they just forgot he existed. Like, why? BioWare, please give Kof some more content instead of having 6 hours of Lana Beniko romance content. Please give Kof some more content. The thing is, Theron also suffers from this, but Kof has it much worse. Like, my heart is out for the people who actually like Kof. It's really sad to see BioWare neglect him. Again, I really like him. That is... I like his mannerisms, I like his backstory, I like his character in general. And I don't understand why people, some people particularly, dislike him. I mean, I guess some people might find him annoying, but you get the idea. Kof is a good companion, at least for me. So, this tier he goes. And the next one on our tier list is Risha Drayan. Now, I got what they were doing with Risha. She's great, don't get me wrong, but honestly, much better companions exist than her. And she's definitely better than the other male smuggler romance option. Again, I like her character, I like her backstory, I like her story arc. But she needs to be utilized more. Thanks, BioWare. So, that is why Risha gets the good companion tier. I like her, she's great, but again, much better companions exist. And at least for me, and Risha just does not live up to the others. That is why Risha gets on good companions. After Risha comes arguably the best droid companion in the game, M14X. Yes, M14X is the best droid companion in the game. This is the hill I'm willing to die on. Because, as you all know, SWTOR companions are just varying degrees of sycophants. M14X embraces this and makes it awesome. He's programmed to be patriotic. He's programmed to fight the Empire. He's the stalwart droid protector of the Republic. And he's a prototype and the best technology the Republic has to offer. He is a mindless patriot, and that is why we love him. And that is why I love him. 4X is great, and he's the best droid companion. That is why he goes on good companion tier. Now, some might argue that he should be on squad goals, but again, much better companions exist, at least in my opinion. That is why 4X is on good companion tier. And after 4X comes Lieutenant Felix Iresso. The thing is, I like Iresso, but Arik Jorgen exists. Like, if BioWare tapped into his full potential, he could have been another Arik Jorgen in his own right. However, with the Jedi Consular having the theme of companions not having their full potential except one, Felix Iresso is basically the perfect man for the light side consular. But BioWare does not do a lot with him. I like his backstory, I like his character arc. Especially from what I saw from like the reunification the player has with Jedi Under Siege. Felix Iresso has gotten much better, but again, he could have been much better in my opinion. That is why Felix Iresso is on good companion and not higher. Because he's just a less interesting Arik Jorgen, to be honest. After Felix Iresso comes Ensign Reyna Temple. Again, like, she is much better than Kaleo. But that's not a high bar now, is it? My main gripe with Reyna Temple is that BioWare just kind of forgets she exists with Eternal Throne. And they're like, shit, Reyna Temple was a thing, right? So let's have her on a flashpoint. And let's bring her back that way. So if BioWare really did much more stuff with Reyna, she would have definitely been squad goals or even legendary. Her backstory is great. Her character is great. Like, the thing is, unlike Mako, she's perfect for both light and dark agents. Yes, she wouldn't approve the means of the dark agents, but they're still a cute couple. Because they'd still ultimately be patriotic unless you're playing like a psychopath, which you might as well go for Kaleo at that point. But for like ends justify means dark agent, she's great. And that is why Reyna Temple is on good companion tier and not on squad goals, because BioWare forgot she existed for a time. Next up is Theron Shan. Now, Theron Shan could have been on squad goals had BioWare not done the Betrayer arc thingy. Now I can see what they were doing, but instead of having the IOCAF gods hidden behind a subscription paywall, they could have just had them as the bosses with Zildrock being the head, and just destroy the Eternal Fleet in Gravestone that way, if they really wanted to get rid of them. Instead of just having Theron go on this 4D chess betrayal arc, which nobody asked for. And by the way, people who live in for that are edgelords who almost always play dark side characters that will kill any companion for the pettiest of reasons. But despite all that character butchering, at least he's not Koff. Because BioWare did Koff dirty. They also did Theron dirty, but at least they didn't neglect him like they neglected Koff. So that is why Theron is on good companions tier. And especially after Tao Adair and Arn, I've really become grateful for the game locking me with Lana or Theron or Koff during Fallen Empire and Eternal Throne. So I have warmed up to him more. After Theron is Kaizen Fess. Now, unlike the other Jedi Consular companions, Kaizen uses his full potential, well, at least BioWare uses his full potential. However, the reason why he's on high good companions tier is Bodar exists. Bodar is just older, wiser, stronger, and more experienced. And as a concept, Bodar is simply better. They're both honor-bound brutes, but for the wrong reasons. Kaizen basically has a disdain for mercenary work and basically does charity hunting, if that's a word. He basically doesn't do it for the money. He does it for his religion of the scorekeeper thingy, which is basically a social credit system, but as a religion. He is very big and chilling pilled, I must say.
早上好，中国！现在我有冰淇淋，我很喜欢冰淇淋，但是速度与激情就冰淇淋，速度与激情就我最喜欢，所以现在是音乐时间，准备。
They're laughing at me. I know that. You can't hurt my feelings if I'm in on the joke.
After Kaizen comes a companion from Fallen Empire, which is Senya. I really like Senya. Which, by the way, she sounds like Olivia Pierce from the Doom remake, the 2016 one. No, seriously, someone should tell me, are they voiced by the same woman? I've never bothered to research, but they sound nearly identical. I have to know this. But I like how you're bonded with her and you don't even get a chance to romance her. And she becomes like a real good comrade to you and starts warming up to you and to Koff. Even though in the beginning they didn't like each other, so that was a nice touch by BioWare. They really can do good stories and good stuff when they're not neglecting their game. And I think Senya could have even reached squad goals if not for BioWare's neglect, because after Eternal Throne, Senya is just overshadowed by Arkin. Like, you mostly talk to Arkin after Eternal Throne and not Senya. If she had a tad bit more content, she would definitely be on squad goals in my list. The final companion on the good companion tier is Archibald Froderick Kimball, more commonly known as Doc. Like Brunemark, Doc is one of those companions that people either like or despise with a burning passion. I can see why people dislike him. He can be rather annoying and infuriating at times, but that's what makes him funny. Doc is basically that one guy who's great to hang out with, but you would never want to be roommates with. And the thing is, Doc just might be my favorite comic relief companion in all of SWTOR. I found myself laughing at his horn dog and womanizing behavior more than anything in this game. Like, every time I talked to him, there was something to laugh. Laugh with him, and mostly laugh at him. He's hilarious. He's the best comic relief companion in the game. And no, Doc is not a misogynist. Misogynist is somebody who hates women. Doc is a womanizer. He's basically Zeus, but not an egomaniac. And he's hilarious, and he definitely has talent to back up that ego of his. Because let's face it, the guy is talented, and he's basically a hero. He has this weird balance of actually wanting to help people, like genuinely wanting to do it, and being this attention-seeking glory hound. I really like the balance that BioWare gave him, and again, he's hilarious. That is why Doc is the highest on the good companion tier. Now we finally move on to the squad goals tiers, which, let's first start with, which is the lowest on the squad goals, is Corso Regs. Now, I can see why some people would find him annoying, but I like him. He's too much of a farm boy. Like, I think he's funny at times. He's cute. Now don't get that in a certain specific way. I don't mean it that way. It's just that his naive behavior really makes me laugh, and you know, I have fond memories of him. Well, I just like him. That's, even though I can see why people would find him annoying, but I really don't think he's worth, like, hating, so I don't think he would be here or here if I didn't like him too much. Like, I just can't explain this one. Everybody else I can, but just not Corso. I just like him too much. So that's why he's the lowest on squad goals tier. After Corso comes Torian Cadera. Now, I like Torian, and, like, there is a group of people who, like, really find him boring. I don't know why. I mean, like, he's not, like, super interesting or anything, but he's still interesting. And I kind of like his attitude. He's basically Boone from Fallout New Vegas, but instead of, my wife is dead, it's, my dad's a traitor. And since I've always been a big fan of Boone, I like his demeanor, but unlike Boone, Torian is much more cheerful. It's just that he has a dry way of expressing himself, which, like, you don't have to be, like, upbeat to, like, be, like, very happy or something. So, yeah, that's why Torian is on squad goals list. I just like the concept of it in and of itself rather than, like, his arc, and BioWare did him very dirty with that accursed moments that we shall not name. But aside from that, he did get a lot of content in Fallen Empire and Eternal Throne, and I've bonded with the character even more. First while playing the Bounty Hunter and on Fallen Empire. The content he's received during Fallen Empire and Eternal Throne really did help his character though, so that's why Torian gets the squad goals tier. Next up on the list is, surprisingly, Jason Wilson. Now, I know some people are gonna re-at me for this, but Jason is not that interesting of a character, honestly. I mean, Kira exists. Like, the only thing that sets her apart from Kira is that you can make Jason fall to the dark side, which, hot take, dark side Jason is just a Force user Kaleo. She's a deranged sex murder enthusiast in heavy eyeshadow. While light Jason is just a more boring Kira. At least Kira makes some jokes to light up the mood. But Jason is, like, all serious talk, especially the light one. I mean, I like both for their own reasons, but again, for me, there are much better characters than Jasa, both light and dark. That is why Jasa is on squad goals tier. Because, like, in fact, if it wasn't for the unique mechanic she had, where you can make her go to the dark horse, make her stay at the light, she'd probably be alongside Nadia. So yeah, I'm really not that big of a fan of Jasa. I mean, she's great, but there are better. Speaking of the devil, next up is Kira. Now, don't get me wrong, Kira is great. I really like her. She managed to make me chuckle at times, but she never made me laugh out loud as much as Doc did, honestly. But that's not the point. Kira is great, like, she's a very good depiction of what an unorthodox Jedi should be, in my opinion. She's cynical, but she's not pessimistic. She has some doubts about the Jedi. She also has some experience with the Sith and their teachings. So she, to some degree, knows what she's fighting. So knowing both perspectives, she becomes rather unorthodox and, well, basically, what allows you to romance her in the first place. Which the romance is great, by the way. So, definitely go for her if you're playing a male. Unless you're playing dark and trying to romance Lana, that's a different matter entirely. But yes, besides, I like her arc and the twist that she's a child of the Emperor, which kind of links her with the Jedi Consular story, but she's like the only one who was able to break control of it because, well, it's a long story, just play the campaign. But yes, great character, great way to depict an unorthodox Jedi. Again, speak of the devil. Next up on the tier list is Lana. Well, some people might be surprised for why her being this slow on the list. English scholar, why she's this slow on the tier list, even though most people would probably put her on legendary, is because, well, she's great. Don't get me wrong, I really like her. She's a great Sith. That's definitely for sure, but what I don't like is that she takes too much of the limelight. Remember, 6 hours of romance content, while Koth and Theron get neglected. Thanks, BioWare. You're great when you're not neglecting stuff, but damn, please put the effort you put on Lana for the entirety of SWTOR. Like, man, the game's worn down by years of neglect. It's kind of sad. But Lana basically represents everything right and wrong with SWTOR, to be honest. She represents what BioWare can do when they are passionate, but also represents that BioWare has been neglecting this game for years. And to symbolize that, I decided to put her here, even though she would have been much higher on squad goals if, like, SWTOR was a great game. Which, yes, critics of SWTOR, I do acknowledge, as well as I just like the game despite it. Because I have the time to play and tolerate the mediocre gameplay. Well, that's beside the point. Great character, but I have just my main nitpicky gripes with it, I admit that. So that's why she's on squad goals here. After Lana Benico comes Andronikos Ravel. The best pirate you can ever meet, honestly. Andronikos is great, especially after getting threatened non-stop by Kemval to be eaten alive. Andronikos is great because one, he's basically the comic relief with a dry sense of humor. Second of all, he's a good depiction of a man of action. He is smart, he is keen, it's just that he prefers to talk with blasters more than anything. 3, the romance is great from what I've heard. Like, people seem to be content with it. And I'd be too. Again, like, after, like, tolerating Kemval for so long, Andronikos definitely feels like a breath of fresh air. So, Andronikos is always welcome for me, and that's why he's high on the list. Great character, even though he tends to be dry for some people. The next person on the list might actually surprise you. It's Theron Cedrax from the Jedi Consular campaign. Again, Theron Cedrax seems to be a companion that people either like or really hate. I don't understand I mean, I do understand why, but personally, I think the positives outweigh the negatives. Like, he's great. I think he's the best Jedi Consular companion, and this Seville I'm willing to die on. His, like, what saved the Jedi Consular campaign for me was his character arc. His character arc is great. So basically he has this holographic girlfriend named Holiday. Yes, it's actually his girlfriend. Yeah, kind of like Aoi, basically. And this program is sentient but not sapient. And he basically builds this, in theory, impossible generator, and he realizes the power source can be used to make Holidays go from sentient to sapient. And at the last moment, just when he was going to basically a science convention, he decided to take the power core of the generator and use it on Holiday, and risk becoming an embarrassment to the scientific community, which he became, by the way. And, like, before this, he always also tended to be self-centered to some extent, but especially knowing that mannerism of his, that was a very interesting character development and a shift in character. And besides, I admit I am a sucker for romances. That is why Theron Cedrax gets squad goals tier on my list, and I think he's the best Jedi Consular companion. And afterwards is Hector Hillis, my favorite Imperial Intelligence companion. Firstly, I really like the concept. Basically having an Imperial diplomat be assimilated into a hive mind partially. But the twist is that he has free will, which can make him act as an ambassador, as intended. Which also means he can betray the Empire, the hive mind, which he does if you go for the light side option on Alderaan, which is why I think he's great. His loyalties lie with the Empire first, and he's basically the average Imperial citizen, patriotic, wants to solve things diplomatically, but to some extent still militant. And he's a more, shall we say, progressive type with his xenophilia. And also, I love his dry sense of humor. And his chemistry with Dr. Eckhart Loken, and how Loken's arc is linked with, has Vector in it. It's great. I really like it. For that, Vector, also as a romance, he's great. He's too kind. So Vector has a special place in my heart, no homo. And that's why he's on squad goals tier. And to be honest, Imperial Agent does not have the best of companions in my opinion. And Vector really saves it for me. And next up on the tier list is Galt Renau, or Tiresias Loci. Let me describe why I really like Galt. He's essentially Ayn Rand if she was a con artist. Basically, like, whenever I've ever listened to Galt talk, his mannerisms, his actions, his entire story arc, the more I just thought Ayn Rand. And that's because, like, he's kind of selfish. He's also like a selfishness is a virtue kind of guy. He keeps scamming people, which Rand didn't do, by the way, regardless of what you think of her. Which, no, this is not a time for partisan philosophy discussion. This is a tier list about a video game, so shut up. I'm just making comparisons. Anyways, no, it's just that I really like... He has made me chuckle a few times, I'm gonna admit that. And the content he's received with Fallen Empire is great. He also received some with Eternal Throne, but... afterwards, it was kind of like he didn't exist, even though he and Hilo Viz are dating again. Like, it's as if BioWare kind of forgot he existed. That's not good. Especially knowing that Hilo Viz often interacts with the Alliance Commander. So, BioWare, could you please bring some more content with Galt? That would be really appreciated. Which, speaking of Hilo, again, since I'm a sucker for romances, what he did at the end of his arc is also why he is so high up on the list. I will admit that. Like Theron Cerax, I do have a special place for Galt in my heart. Some people will really re-at me for this. It's Vet, and she's not even in the top 10. Look, I really like Vet. I think she's a better romance option than Jaisa, even as a Darksider. Assuming that you take the collar off, which, if you don't, what is wrong with you? But I really don't understand why people simp so hard for her. Maybe it's because of the alien exoticism, mate. I'm just guessing here, because the thing is, as great as her character is, she's just Mission Vale 2.0. She's just Mission, but older. Old enough to consent, mind you. Which, Mission was 14 in KOTOR 1, by the way. Which, they fulfill the same roles. A scoundrel, who cracks jokes, is kinda immature, quirky and weird. And also has family issues. Except, Mission was just scavenging around in a shithole. Vet is a tomb robber. That's really the difference. Aside from that, they're basically one and the same. Which, I'll be honest, I'm really not a big fan of Mission. Like, I don't dislike her. It's just that, Vet is great, but she's not very great. She's not, like, legendary. So, this is why I think Vet should be on squad goals and not, like, up here. Afterwards comes Arkin. Well, do I really need to explain Arkin? Like, for all of my problems with Fallen Empire and Eternal Throne, for all of my gripes with the Eternal Empire, I think Arkin is a great character. We see him develop and go through his arc throughout the campaign, and especially when you get the Sparer in him, I mean, and he joins by your side, he becomes a total bro. He even gives you an armor set that he himself made. How about that? That's pretty cool. And it's just that I also really like his design. He's also kind of here due to the design, as also alongside the story. Basically of a jealous, scornful son who wanted to kill his father, which he kind of did, but then wanted more, and everything came around, crumbled around him. Inserts Viva la Vida here, kind of related, I don't know. You get the point. And when you get to redeem him, he becomes a total bro. And you get to romance him too. And I admit, I like the Eternal Empire despite all of its flaws, which is why Arkin is on squad goals.
Now we get to the part where I get lynched by the mob. And number 10 is Malavai Quinn. But now you're gonna say, but Scholar, he betrays the player. Okay, and? No, seriously. The thing is, the light side dialogue all but confirms that it was basically gaslit by Darth Barris to betray the Wrath, which just says more about Barris's reaching influence than anything else. However, it just shows that Quinn is a fool. That despite all of his rationalism, despite all of his patriotism, he will let himself get fooled because he owes Darth Barris so much of his career. Besides, I noticed something with like people who have a hate boner for Quinn. It's that they're the same type of people who will almost always play dark side characters. Like, they will always go for Dark Jaisa. Like, they will always leave Theron to die in that accursed arc that we shall not name. And they also happen to have a hate boner for Ashara. So, should I really take the opinions of people who literally have the same opinions and play styles seriously? Now, I don't mean it that way, as in theirs is less valuable than mine or anything. It's just that I just don't find it valid when like only a certain group of people are very vocal about this than anyone else. The thing is, I know a lot of people who like Quinn. Hell, he's actually my personal favorite in the Sith Warrior campaign. But saying this will cause people to scream bloody murder. Again, Quinn is not boring. He's not a bootlicker. He's just a fool. For all of his rationalism, it just shows that he isn't as rational as he would like you to believe. And that's cool. Besides, I like his mannerism, I like his formality. Also, he makes me chuckle with the female playthrough, especially if you romance him. Like the way he avoids your advances. Just hilarious. Comedy gold. But yes, I really like Quinn. And that's why he's on my top 10. Next up is, well, Bodar. Without a doubt, the best smuggler companion. Not only that, he's basically the second best brutish companion in the game. He has an interesting backstory. He is old enough to experience the stuff that he has experienced. And he's just so lovable.
he's just traumatized for all of the fighting that he's done. And he just wants to get better. Like, BOTOR is a companion that I will always keep at my side, and even if his Alliance alert can be absolute pain, I will always get BOTOR. You can never go wrong with him. That is why BOTOR is on squad goals tier. Also, I'm bad at math. Quinn is not number 10, he is number 9, in fact. And in number 7, we have Blizz, the lovable Java. Like, I've heard nothing but praise for Blizz, and I can see why. He basically has the curiosity and the adventurous spirit of a child, but the intelligence of a savant. Like, even people who hate Javas say that he's basically the redeemer of their species, and I can see why. He's just adorable. Though I must say, in Legends, Java smell horrible. Hugging him would not be a good idea. Imagine the germs you'd get. Ugh. He's best viewed from afar. But he's definitely the best bounty hunter companion. And besides, what saves the bounty hunter campaign are the companions anyways. So Blizz definitely deserves this spot. Afterwards, it's Chemval. Now, Chemval has the characteristics of a brute with an IQ of 10. However, what makes him one of the best companions in the game is that he basically has the best character development and character arc in the entire game. It's just great. I love it. He goes from like 3 planets straight threatening to devour you to actually respecting you, and the ability to choose between Zash and Chem at the very end of his story, that twist is pretty good, actually. Which, despite all of his brutishness and all of his flaws, I don't know why anybody would pick Zash aside from torturing her, which, to be fair, she seems to have gotten used to the shot body. So, yeah, Chemval has one of the best character arcs in the entire game, and that is why he's on squad goals tier. Not because of the character himself, which does play a role in it to some degree. It's his character arc more than anything. And next up on the list, and the final squad goals tier companion, is Talos Strelic. Like with Blizz, I've heard nothing but universal praise for Talos, and I can see why. He's kind, he's loving, even to a Darth Nox. He's that way. Which, even as a Darksider, it hurts for me to just be mean to him. Like, there's literally no reason to. The guy just loves his history. Not just that, an archaeologist companion, like the most thematically fitting companion in the entire Sith Inquisitor storyline, honestly. I mean, don't get me wrong, the others are great, but Talos is like the most fitting out of all of them, in my opinion. And not just that, he's just overall a likable guy. Like, he'll talk about literally anything and you'd listen. That is why Talos is on squad goals here. Like, he is great, and just because of the companions and the story quality, despite some of its flaws, the Sith Inquisitor is a great campaign. Top 4. Lord Scourge. You know, even people who dislike SWTOR, because of, like, especially Fallen Empire, told me that they actually like Scourge. Even though he's basically the reason why, well, indirectly the reason why Revan has become an eco-terrorist in the expansion that is named after him, and why the Jedi Exile is dead. On the other hand, it can be, he's not like an OC Do Not Steal character, which is what makes him work more than anything. He does not feel like an OC Do Not Steal character. He definitely, like, feels like a Sith Lord who's trying to atone for the mistake that he did, aiding Darth Bitchute, who, in reality, wants to devour the entirety of the galaxy. And yes, it does lay groundwork for your Jedi Knight to be the chosen one. I mean, the Jedi Knight is the worst campaign in all of SWTOR, what do you expect? Yes, I said that. But man, does Lord Scourge save it. I mean, Kira and Doc are also great. Doc has made me laugh more than any other comic relief companion. But man, is Scourge awesome. And even people who dislike SWTOR think Scourge is awesome. That is why Scourge deserves legendary tier. And not just that, what makes him even cooler that he doesn't even want to return to the light, he just wants to stop the common threat that is Darth Bitchute. And number 3 we have Auric Jorgen. The reason why I put Auric Jorgen this high on the list is because, yes, you get companions in the very first planet all the time, but I might be a bit biased here, and that's because Trooper was the very first campaign I ever played, and my bonding with Jorgen is much different. Since I played as a male the very first time, Jorgen becomes a total bro, basically. Sure, he can be arrogant and an asshole at times, but man, he's great. He's definitely great. And he becomes a total bro, and I definitely recommend him as a romance. Even though I have yet to play Female Trooper, actually. So I actually do not know what his romance particularly comprises of, but from what I can tell, it happens much, much more earlier than Dorn's. Which eventually I will come to. But yes, for being a total bro for a male trooper, especially if you help him with his stuff, and especially with the content he's received in Fallen Empire, and to some degree in Eternal Throne, Jorgen deserves a legendary tier. He could have been number 2 if his voice actor didn't retire. Which means we'll barely get any other content from him, which is sad. Oh boy, another divider. You know exactly who I'm talking about. Do I really need to say her name? It's Ashara. Number 2 is Ashara. Look. Like, the people who are salty are basically people who wanted her to be another Jaisa. She's not another Jaisa. Like, from the very beginning, it was established that she is kind of a rebel. Like, it was obvious coming from a mile away that you could not turn her to the dark. That is why people dislike her. All of my efforts at corruption, they were for nothing. But the thing is, I don't think she was ever meant to be corrupted, and I think it would be out of character if she got corrupted. Which, by the way, I like her better as a Grey Jedi. She's basically a tale of finding oneself. Kind of reminds me of Kung Fu, which also has that philosophy. Not just that the light side romance is adorable. I mean, the dark side romance also does work to a degree. but it can be very toxic depending on how you approach it. But yeah, I really don't get why Ashara gets all the hate she gets. Because, again, you weren't meant to corrupt her and take her to the dark. It was obvious from the very beginning. So yes, she's number 2 because she's definitely the second best romance in the game. Especially with a light-side Inquisitor is just adorable. It makes my heart warm and gives me fuzzy fuzzies. And my number 1 favorite SWTOR companion is Elara Dorn. Again, I might be a bit biased on this one, because firstly, again, my very first campaign was Trooper, and my very first romance was with Elara. So, yeah, that may be a bit of bias on my part. I will admit that. And secondly, actually, that's all. That's really all. The reason why I really like her is that in Star Wars we see people like sometimes we see like Imperials defect to the Rebels all the time, but not often. And in the Old Republic I do not recall like any Imperial defecting to like the Republic. Dorn basically provides it. Again, I said Old Republic, like Old Republic in general, KOTOR, KOTOR 2, and SWTOR itself. Because in Legends, like, people defect from the Empire all the time to the Rebels. Aside from that, it was really nice to see a character defect from the Empire to the Republic for a change, especially after what happened with Tavis, you know. Secondly, I think she's sweet. And her accent really adds to the sweetness, to be honest. Well, not only that, I like her story arc, and how she literally gets her brother to defect the Republic as well. Putting her admiral in place. Not just that, also learning to loosen up a bit and basically learn that not everything is regulation. Not everything is about regulation. And the romance is sweet. Definitely try going for her if you do not find her annoying. I've seen some people say that she's annoying, but I don't know. I'm with the people who say Elara is bae. And yes, Elara is bae. Well, I hope you enjoyed my garbage video that I spent 3 months on due to procastination, trying to get a license in school. I hope you enjoyed this video. That's the only thing I can say. Because I admit my videos are not high quality and I'm trying to branch out. Besides, I do this for fun. So yeah, this is gonna be it for this video. I'm the Nameless Scholar. Like the Dark Angels would say, never forget, never forgive.